Good morning. Good morning. Riley and Van Gogh here. I feel like I never have energy and I never am excited when I start the day anymore. So I know I did close that video yesterday and I showed where our tent was, but in the daylight, this was our tent site. So as you can see, it's lots of space between the trees, so definitely possible to find little pockets to set up a tent. The trail is back over that way, and we're gonna go that way northbound. Decent night's sleep last night. I got up, it was actually chilly and I was kind of cold. I was in my sleeping bag and I had taken my orange shirt off, and so my upper body was chilly. And I was too sleepy to realize it and actually put my orange shirt on or get my liner out. And then I got up in the morning to use the bathroom and it was still kind of chilly and I was still pretty tired. It was light out and I could have, I know I said I often say I want to get up early. But there's a balance between getting up early, getting off to a good start, and hiking while it's cool out. But also, I want to feel like I'm ready to go. I want to feel like I'm well rested. And I didn't feel like I was well rested at that point, so I just decided to get back in the tent and go back to sleep. And then finally I was awoken by the sounds of two hikers coming northbound. And by that point I was rested enough and it had warmed up enough that I was comfortable to get ready. So now I'm finally ready, and it just feels very late in the day and I don't know what time it is. But we're ready to get started. I'm sucking on a ginger candy right now. I noticed last night that I lost one of my peanut butter jars between Tumbling Run Shelter, where Riley and I took our last break last night, and when we got here, because when I set up the tent and I got everything out, I realized it wasn't there. So it must have fallen out of my pack somewhere along the trail in those 4 miles. And of all the things to lose, a peanut butter jar, it was an empty peanut butter jar. And I still have I had 2 empty peanut butter jars, so I still have 1 empty peanut butter jar for my cold soaking. So of all the things to lose, the peanut butter jar is the best thing to lose. It's extremely easily replaceable, and it's not even my only one, so I still have one to use. But it still kind of bums me out. It still bothers me. But we'll get started on the day today, and I'll forget about it eventually. But I'm kind of bummed out that I lost the jar. Riley is not bummed out. He's like, what's going on? Anyway, so we're gonna get started and we'll check in later. All right, Riley and Van Gogh here checking in. We just got to interesting rock area, so I figured I'd pull my camera out and do some videoing. There's Mr. Riley back there. White blaze right there. All right, so Riley and I are back here. The hikers that were coming southbound were able to pass us. It was a group of 4 hikers, and they were actually, I think they were Amish hikers. We didn't stop to chat. Okay, Riley. What are you doing, sir? Anyway, yeah, so it was a group of Amish hikers. 3 ladies and 1 man. And the ladies were all wearing dresses. But they also had their backpacking, like backpacks on. So they had good hiking backpacks, but they were still wearing their Amish clothes. Not something, I think that's the first time I've seen Amish people on the trail. And Riley's like, we're going in the wrong direction now. We need to go hike after the people that just went that way. And that's why I'm facing southbound. Oh, gosh. Anyway, so we're getting off to a slow start today. We got off to a late start. And then we hiked less than a mile. And before we got to the first road crossing, which was Swamp Road, we passed a gentleman. And we had a nice chat with him for a little while. The gentleman was just out here for some... He was literally like pacing short stretches back and forth along a small section of the trail. But yeah, we talked with him for a little while. He said he used to live in Maryland, and he worked at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, which was interesting for me to hear because I know that place. Back in high school, I went there on a weekly basis because they had a chess club that met there. Anyway, and then he said he lives in PA now, but he's actually planning to move to near Seattle, Washington later this year. And he's currently retired, but he's like a young retired. He's not old. Like he could still go back to work if he wanted to. Anyway, that's just no reason anybody needs to know that. It's just something that happened in our day today. Then we continued on, and we got to another road crossing. By the way, Pennsylvania, at least this part of Pennsylvania, has more road crossings than any other place on the AT in such a short period of time. I was thinking you could do like a ratio of road crossings to campsites. And in Georgia, if you were to do that ratio, that ratio would be very tiny, a very small number. It would be much less than 1, meaning that there's very few road crossings relative to the number of campsites along the trail. And in this section of Pennsylvania, if you did that similar ratio, that ratio would be far greater than 1. It would be like 5 or 6 or something. Just that there's so many more road crossings than there are campsites along the trail. So that just shows how many road crossings there are in this section of PA. Fortunately, I have not gotten lost on the trail yet. I've been much more cognizant to see where the trail continues on the other side of the road, and there have been cases where, I think cases where I got lost previously, where you get out to a road and then you're not supposed to take the trail immediately on the other side. You have to either go left or right to find where the AT continues. And fortunately, there is signage to help direct you, and I probably just was ignorant or oblivious to the signage back in 2018, and that's how I got lost. Anyway, so we got to another road just about 4/10 of a mile after the first road crossing, and a guy called out Van Gogh. He knew me, and it was a hiker named Earl. Earl is his actual name. And Earl and I have met multiple times already on this hike. He's doing a through hike this year, but he's doing it in an interesting way. He was working on the Harper's Ferry to Springer section first, but he was always going southbound. So he was doing large sections going southbound. And then his plan was to continue after he finished Harper's Ferry to Springer. His plan was to go up to Katahdin and hike Katahdin down to Harper's Ferry, southbound. But he said he had a commitment on like August 10th that his daughter was getting married. And so he had some time between now and then, and he didn't want to start his hike from Katahdin and have to get off. So he decided to do the section from Duncannon to Harper's Ferry, which he figured he could complete before his commitment on the 10th of August, and then he's gonna flip up to Katahdin after that and do Katahdin down to Duncannon to complete his through hike. Yeah, so Earl and I keep running into each other, and he recognized me. I mean, it's easy for people to recognize me if they've seen me before, because I Riley, and he sticks in people's minds. But I remembered Earl. Part of the reason I remembered him is just, or part of the reason I remember his name is because of the Dixie Chicks song that, where it's a song about this guy. It's a funny song. It's about this guy named Earl, and it's sung by two women, or maybe multiple women, and they, I guess they dated this guy named Earl, and he turned out to be kind of a sleazebag, and they didn't like him, so I guess they knocked him over the head and they stuck him in the trunk of their car, something like that. It's fictional, so it's fine to laugh at it. But there's not too many guys named Earl, so I have heard that song, and it's left an imprint in my mind, and so whenever I see him, it's not too hard for me to remember that his name is Earl. And I remember asking him previously when I met him in the South, like, have you heard of that Dixie Chick song? And he's like, oh, have I heard of that Dixie Chick song? Like, of course I've heard of that song. So he's always happy when he sees me. And it's always a surprise when we run into each other. So I was happy to see him. And it was just him and this other guy who was sitting at the trailhead, and he had a cooler. His name was Mike, so he was doing some trail magic. So Riley and I got some trail magic earlier. Earl then eventually hiked on, and me and Mike kind of chatted for a bit. Seems like a super nice guy. I was able to enjoy a ginger ale and a Coke and some coffee cake while I was there, so that was very nice. This guy Mike, and by the way, so at this point, Riley and I have hiked only like 9/10 of a mile from our campsite. So we haven't hiked very far, and anyway, so Riley and I ended up spending, I think, longer than I was expecting to. We probably spent an hour and a half at this trail magic place. So that's just contributing to our slow start to the day. But it was a nice break. Nice to chat with Mike. He is an aspiring hiker. He wants to, it sounds like he wants to hike the PCT and AT at some point in the future. And just a normal guy. He's got a cool job that he told me about, where he drives around and takes pictures of billboards as part of the contracts that companies sign to put up a billboard. Part of the deal, in addition to the billboard going up, is that pictures have to be taken to prove that they're up, and also just so that the companies have access to what they look like, so that they can share it with their investors and management, so that they know that they're getting what they paid for. So he's the guy that takes pictures of billboards, which get sent back to the companies that paid for the billboards, so that they can do what they want with them. So that was cool. Just cool to hear him describe what he does. And he also asked me some questions about my interests, and I got to tell him about this Horde game that I learned about 1.5 years ago. Horde is a chess variant where white has a whole bunch of pawns, specifically 36 pawns, and black has its regular chess army of 8 pawns, a king, a queen, 2 rooks, 2 knights, 2 bishops, and black's goal is to capture all of white's pawns, whereas white's goal is to checkmate black's king, usually by promoting one of his pawns or multiple pawns to a queen, and then forcing a checkmate with the heavy material. So it's a game that I learned maybe a couple years ago and have been really enjoying playing, and whenever I finish the trail, I'm gonna look forward to playing it some more and continuing to try to get better. So I was able to tell him about that, and he seemed genuinely interested, and he's like, I might check it out and try to play it myself. It sounds fun. So that was cool. Yeah, it was good conversation with him. We eventually got moving on though, because got to continue with the hiking, and we made it to the next shelter, Rocky Run Shelters. We just made it to the side trail. And now we're hiking down towards US Route 30, which leads into Fayetteville, Pennsylvania, and it's close to Gettysburg. And we passed a sign a little while ago that said we had 2.5 miles to go. So when we get there, we'll have done about 5.5 miles on the day. So I think that means we've done a little over 3 miles. So still very early in the day, slow day. I need Riley to hike with me. It's hard to hike if only one person wants to hike. Such is c'est la vie. Such is life. I think Riley should be about ready to continue on. It doesn't look like he's super tired. I think he's just missing those Amish hikers. So, all right, I'm gonna... Riley, come on. Would you like to hike? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Okay. And Riley's gonna get in front, at least temporarily, and sniff the ground. So the terrain in Pennsylvania so far is like a mixture of this kind of terrain. Why? What are you doing, Riley? What is wrong? You're just standing there, looking at me. And now you're gonna plop down. Oh, buddy. Okay. Riley's saying that he wants a break, so I will give him a break. I gave him some food and water earlier. So I don't think he needs more food right now. Or water. But I think he's just tired. Understandable. So this is what happens when a northbound hiker comes by and Riley doesn't want to take a break anymore, and he wants to follow the northbound hiker. It's very different. Very different. So we're gonna continue hiking now. Riley's ready to hike. So Riley and I made it to, with that northbound hiker's help, to get Riley motivated. We made it down to US Route 30 and then crossed over. And now we are in the grounds of Caledonia State Park, just like 4/10 of a mile from US Route 30. We can still hear all the vehicular traffic from that route. Seems like a nice park. It's got lots of picnic tables, lots of pavilions. Riley seems to want to stay for a while. He's gonna roll around soon, I think. I think he's gonna roll around. Lots of rock piles. So we're slowly making up for our slow start to the day. We've done about 6 miles on the day, I think now. I think we have a climb awaiting us, about 1,000 feet. But once we complete that climb, I don't think we have any more climbs. Come on, Ray. Between the summit where we get to and Pine Grove Furnace State Park, where we're gonna, the plan is to get some ice cream. So that means after this climb, we don't have any more significant climbs the rest of the day today, and however many more miles we need to do tomorrow. Yeah, so this is AT continues over here, and you can clearly see that this is, we're going to be doing some climbing here. Hello. All right, here we go. That guy is going the wrong way. He needs to be going up this hill, up the Appalachian Trail. Oh, Riley. Riley just wants to go after everybody that he sees. All right, buddy, come on, Riley. Okay. Riley, you can't go after that guy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Riley was just chasing. He was, oh, Riley, stop pulling me. It's not that you need a break. You just want to chase after that guy. I know. Oh, my goodness. All right, so I'm going to give Riley a break here. He doesn't need a break. I'm just going to let him not walk north for a while until he calms down. He's just seen all the people in the park, and he's like, let's stay with the people in the park. Or let's walk in the direction where the people are. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. It's my fault that his actions are annoying me. Well, it's not my fault. It's just it's just the way it's making me feel. But I'm feeling better that we are, we've made some, the northbound hiker that passed by us earlier, he was walking fast, so he was, as Riley and I were making progress down the mountain towards US Route 30, he was always far enough in front of us that we couldn't see him, but he was, he still provided Riley with the motivation that we needed to get down to the road without too much trouble. And then he actually hiked into Fayetteville. I could see, when we got down to the road, I could see him walking along the road. And so that kind of demotivated Riley once we crossed the road, because he knew that the other hiker was not in front of us anymore. So Riley and I sort of made it to the top. We definitely completed a climb, and there might be more climbing up there, but we got to this trail intersection here, and I stopped to take another break here, and I secured Riley to the post. And then shortly after we got here, along that guy that we saw who had crossed in front of us just as we started the climb, he came jogging up this way on the what's called the Three Valley Trail. And then he continued on the AT, going northbound. So now I think Riley wants to follow him, so we're gonna let him hike while he wants to here. I'm going to let him hike while he wants to. And then we can take another break later on. All right. Hold up, buddy. Let's see. Let's see if you want to hike when I unleash you, Riley. Hold up, big guy. Hold up, buddy. All right. Are we going this way, Riley? Okay. All right, that hiker made a big difference, or that jogger made a big difference. Now he's going in the right direction instead of the wrong direction. So Riley and I have been continuing to hike on since that trail intersection with the blue blazed 3 Valley Trail, and it's just been this very pleasant wide stretch of trail that's very level and not very rocky. So very pleasant, and there's even like spots to set up a tent in the woods here if it were getting close to tenting time. So this is a very nice stretch of trail, and it's very nice that that jogger just happened to pass us right after we got up there, so that Riley is able to feed off of his energy, and we're able to hike this stretch without any issues. So whoops, just tripped over a rock there. That happens frequently, multiple times per day, but usually just causes me to stumble like I did, and I'm able to catch myself without falling. And if I really need to, I can use my hands to grab hold of a tree or something. So yeah, the hike got off to a slow start today, a frustrating start. Well, not that frustrating, but just, you know, a slow start. And it's just the balance between getting up early and giving yourself more hours to make use of for the hiking, as well as trying to take advantage of the cooler temperatures. It's the balance between that and making sure you're physically and mentally ready to actually start hiking. If I had gotten up, like I said earlier, I was up early in the morning because I needed to use the bathroom, so I had to get out of the tent, and I secured Riley to a tree. What do we got here? What do we got here? Appalachian Trail, foot traffic only. Looks like there's a campsite over there, or something that could be used as a campsite. And now 2 via AT Locust Gap Trail. Oh boy, is this some beautiful trail here. And there's even a nice wooden fence for whatever reason. The AT in Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee is extremely wildernessy. You really feel like you're in the wilderness. You really feel like you're in the Appalachian Mountains. And then when you get into Virginia, you're passing through more farms, and you definitely have more road crossings. But then once you get out of the Shenandoahs, out of Shenandoah National Park, and you start crossing through the area leading to Harper's Ferry and then continuing beyond Harper's Ferry, there's a lot more houses that you pass by. So the trail is really nestled into more residential areas. And and there's also much less after the Shenandoahs. I feel like at least this, between where the northern end of the Shenandoahs and where we are now, there's been a lot less elevation change, a lot less need, or yeah, I've been feeling a lot less like we're climbing up and down. It's been much more level elevation change, level terrain for the most part. That climb that we had coming out of Caledonia State Park was a first time in a while that we've had a steep climb. But at the same time, the climb was not extended. It was steep, but it was short, and now we're back to some level hiking. And from what I remember in the AWOL guide, the elevation is mostly flat to downhill between here and Pine Grove Furnace State Park, which is about, I think, a little less than 20 miles away, but maybe just under 20 miles. All right, now we need to veer left here into the woods. Going this way, Riley. So, Riley's sniffing all the sniffs, sniffing all the scents. I think he's like trying to figure out where that jogger went. If he smells him on this trail, or if he smells that he went the other way. The jogger is going to have to turn around at some point. He can't just jog north continuously on the AT, or take some other trail to get back to where he's going, because he didn't have a pack with him. I think Riley is skeptical as to whether the jogger continued this way, and he might be losing his motivation to continue because he's not picking up the scent. He might put his butt on the ground pretty soon. Yep, that's what I predicted, Riley. Yeah, so what I was saying, back to my point. So I was talking about how, yeah, there's the balance between getting up early and getting off to an early start, plus being able to hike in the cooler temperatures versus actually feeling like you're ready to hike, which you need enough sleep to do. So I feel like what I really need to do to help us out is to prioritize when we get to camp and we get set up in our tent. I really need to make very efficient use of our time, very efficient use of my time. And what that means is I got to try to get myself to sleep sooner so I can get more sleep. And that way I can feel ready to go earlier in the morning, so I don't feel the need to sleep in. I think, just trying to be more efficient with my time once, whatever time we get to our camp. And basically, I feel like I'm not being efficient with my time once we're in our tent. I feel like I'm finding ways to just kind of waste time before, between the time that we get in our tent and the time that I actually go to sleep. So I need to reduce that time and be able to just get to sleep sooner. And also try to find some reading time in. But if I'm not ready to fall asleep yet, I should try to get some reading in. And then that will be fun. But it will also, whenever I'm ready to fall asleep, I'll just naturally fall asleep, and I'll just put my Kindle down pick it up later. So I think that will help us out with getting off to earlier starts. Just try to get more sleep. It doesn't mean we have to stop earlier. We can still hike into the evening, but if I can just stop wasting as much time as I am wasting in the tent, and just get myself to sleep, then when I wake up in the morning, I would think that I will feel more ready to go earlier in the day. Okay, so that's enough of that. I was thinking at some point I could give an update on what I've been reading. I mentioned I was reading that book Gone Girl, and I had started by kind of summarizing the plot and what I had read. And I was thinking I could continue, but I've already been talking long enough, so I'll do that later, I guess. Yeah, I'll do that sometime later. Yeah, Riley definitely has lost the scent. And he's like, there's no need to continue because I don't sense that the jogger is continuing on. But if someone were to come going northbound, Riley would be ready to go instantly. Okay, so we will check in later. So I couldn't help but take a picture of this. It's like, people talk about the green tunnel, and it literally looks like we are, once we get under that canopy of trees, like we're inside of a tunnel, because you can see how it opens up on the other side, just the way a tunnel does. It's like you can see the light at the end of the green tunnel. That's pretty cool. So we are approaching Quarry Gap Shelters, and we just passed a trail maintainer for the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club. The shelters in South Pennsylvania, starting with Deer Lick Shelter, or Deer Lick Shelters, are all just really, really nice. That Tumbling Run Shelters place that Riley and I took a break at was super nice. And I think it's unique to Pennsylvania. Well, mostly unique to Pennsylvania. To South PA, where they have 2 shelters at a single shelter location. So like Deer Lick Shelters, which I didn't show on camera, was 1 shelter location, and they had 2 shelters. And Tumbling Run Shelters, where we stopped at last night for a break, another place where there were 2 shelters at the same location. And I learned actually today, when I was talking with Earl and Mike at the Trail Magic spot, that one of the shelters at Tumbling Run Shelters is designated for snorers, and the other shelter is designated for non-snorers. I thought, I didn't read everything closely enough to remember that from yesterday, but I thought that was pretty cool. So once we get past this Quarry Gap Shelters, there's going to be like a footbridge that crosses over a stream about 3/10 of a mile afterward. And I'm planning to fill up on some water there. And from there, it's another 5 miles before next water source. I can see the shelter. Looks like we're going to walk right past it. Very nice. Beautiful. I got the bear box right here. I think might be somebody already in here. And this place is immaculate. Quarry Gap Shelter, Jim Stotch, innkeeper. And that may have been the person that we passed, I'm not sure. So somebody's clearly here already, but They're probably maybe getting wetter. Bill Everwine Raisin, Lance Sturber Cowboy. Anyway, so we are going to continue on here. Riley, come on. We've already taken enough breaks. Very beautiful shelter. Next shelter is 7.5 miles. Okay. We'll check in later. Mr. Riley, Mr. Riley. Riley. Trail goes that way, Riley. Riley. Why are we going in that direction? I'm growling. So I turned my camera on because we have there was a climb after Quarry Gap Shelters, and we have finished the climb. And I believe that is the last climb that we have to do, at least between here and getting to Pine Grove Furnace State Park, where the general store is and the ice cream challenge is. So that's somewhat encouraging. And there's something in my guidebook listed as around this section called the 5 intersection gravel road. And I believe that's exactly where we are now. So that's 1 road, 2 roads, 3 roads, 4 roads, and then a 5th road right there. So five roads all intersecting at the same spot. Pretty cool, pretty cool. All right, so trail goes this way, Riley. You ready? Ready, come on, buddy. What? Seems like Riley wants to stay here. He's like, no, I'm comfortable here. Sometimes when this happens and I say, we'll check in later, and then I turn my phone off. I'm sorry, I turn my camera off. It always beeps, like when I shut the video off, it beeps like 4 times in a row or something. And sometimes when I do that, Riley takes that as a cue to like get up and like, it's like he's ready to start hiking again. That's happened a few times. Like he doesn't want to hike when I have the camera on, but then I turn it off. And then he hears the beeps, and then he's ready to go. Not always, but sometimes. So anyway, since we're just standing here, I will turn the camera off and we will check in later. Okay, bye for now. The same thing just happened. I turned it off and it went beep, and then beep, 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 beep. That's 1 beep, and then I think 5 beeps. And Riley got up on cue after the 5 beeps started, and he just started walking on trail. So whatever it takes to motivate him, I'm fine with that. The good thing is that it's not hot today. It was hot, like it was warm in the middle of the day, but not like excessively warm. And right now it's very mild temperatures. So Riley and I are not at risk of overheating at all. He's not breathing. He's just got tired muscles, which is understandable. So I want to try to let him hike at his own pace and hike when he wants to and hike when he's motivated. And I do need to provide encouragement at times to make sure we try to stay on pace. But I do try to maximize the hiking when he's self-motivated. All right, so I will say it again. We will check in later. Bye for now. Good evening, Riley and Van Gogh checking in here. Riley is doing fine. He's being a good boy, as always. And the day is coming to a close here, as I'm sure you can tell by the dwindling daylight. So, we are approaching I know from my guidebook we're approaching a PATC cabin called Milesburn Cabin, or Milesburn Cabin. It's owned by the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club, but I believe it's owned for the purpose of like renting to vacationers, so it's not meant for hikers to use. But the reason it's on my radar is that there is a spring close by that is going to be Riley and my primary water source for tonight. So I actually didn't fill up at the stream at the last shelter, Quarry Gap Shelters. I still had just under a liter on me, and I had fed Riley and gave him some water before leaving there, and I felt that would be enough water to get us to this water source. But definitely going to be filling up here when we get there. And I hear voices, so that must mean we're really close. I'm not sure if they are hey Riley, hey, hold up buddy. They're probably staying at the cabin, so I'm going to turn this off so I can control Riley here, and we'll check in later. Yeah, Riley's very excited. Oh, he's so excited. He's like, I hear music, I hear voices, sounds like a party. Yeah, so that's probably the people down there. They're probably the people that are using the cabin tonight. But yeah, so just to provide an update here, we're basically right at the cabin where the water source is. We'll fill up here, and from here we're about 2.4 miles away from the next shelter, which is, I think, Rocky Run Shelter. But there's several campsites between here and there, so we'll basically, there's still a little bit daylight left. We'll hike on, and we'll basically have our pick of whatever campsite we want to take, depending on how far we want to hike. Yeah, so that's it. And we'll check in later. All right, good evening. Riley and I are in our tent now, and I just want to close out the day. I don't remember actually if I said what day number it was or what today was this morning, so let me say that. Today is Friday, July 19th, and so that makes it day number 78 for Riley and my hike on the Appalachian Trail. So day 78, Friday, July 19th, and I think I last gave an update as we were approaching Milesburn Cabin, and we were hearing the voices and the music playing, and Riley was getting excited. So they had 2 dogs, and initially they were not on leash, and they started like running towards where Riley and I were. But the people at the cabin reacted quickly, and they were able to get control of them and get him back on leash. And so yeah, there was no issue there. Anyway, so Riley and I got down to where the water was. There was a little stream with a pretty low flow, but enough of a flow for me to collect water. And the people at the cabin, I don't know how many people there were. It seemed like there were over 5, I'm guessing, and they were all younger than I was, but they were all adults. Anyway, so a few of the guys, or a few of the people there came over while I was getting water and apologized for their dogs barking so much. Because while they were barking initially, when they saw that I was collecting water, because they could see the water source that I was collecting it from, they started barking again. So a few of the people came over and apologized for their dogs. And I told them not to worry. I totally understood that they were just being themselves. And I had Riley secured off to the side to a wooden sign, so he was safe and sound. Anyway, yeah, so I started collecting water, and because it was such a low flow, it was taking a long time. And anyway, so long story short, the people at the cabin, they were very, very nice to me. I mean, they were having a good night, and but they asked me if there was anything I needed, and initially I didn't say that there was anything I needed. I was just collecting water, but then they actually brought over like a big jug of water, and they were like, "Why don't you just take our water?" Not because I was taking too long, just they wanted to help. So that was very nice of them. And one of the girls offered me 2 oranges, or she was like, "Do you want any oranges?" And then she's like, "I'll just bring you 2 oranges." So that was very nice. And they were, the best thing was that they were cooking some vegetarian chili mac, and they offered to, or they basically insisted to give me a bowl of it. And so they put some in a plastic container and just gave it to me so that I could take it with me. Yeah, so that was super awesome, and I actually had that with my dinner tonight, and it was super delicious. It was nice and hot when they gave it to me, and then by the time I had it for dinner, it had cooled down a bit to room temperature, or maybe a little above room temperature, but it was still super delicious. Anyway, so Riley and I, we made it to the first campsite that I was talking about earlier. So it was 0.4 miles after Milesburn Cabin. I'm not sure I said that correctly. Milesburn Cabin, which is where the group of people were that gave me a bunch of like the chili mac and the oranges and the water. But we didn't get here until it was dark because like I did spend a while at the cabin, in the vicinity of the cabin, first collecting water. Yeah, so by the time we got to our campsite, it was all dark, and that was one of the reasons that I decided to stop here, just to avoid needing to hike further in the dark. So that leaves us, according to Far Out, we are at mile 1093.5. And so we hiked 13.6 miles today. So as I said earlier, the day got off to what seemed like a super slow start, but we did kind of settle into it and get some good hiking in. And so we were able to end up close to what we did yesterday. So yesterday we did 14.3, today we did 13.6. And we are now 11.9 miles away from Pine Grove Furnace State Park, where the general store is that has the half-gallon challenge. So we're going to need to get off to an early start, definitely earlier start than what we did today, so that we can get there, number one, before they close, and they close at 7 p.m. Ideally, it would be nice to get there before 5 o'clock. But yeah, number one goal is just to get there before they close, but as early as possible as well. So we're going to try to get off to an early start tomorrow. I tried to be more efficient tonight in my tent, but there's just so much stuff to do. I fed Riley 4 bowls of his freeze-dried food mixed with oatmeal. I fed him 4 separate servings in his bowl, and he ate up each and every serving and licked his bowl clean. And it takes a while to feed him each serving, because the freeze-dried food, I have to add water to it, and I'm sure he could just eat it instantly, but it's meant to kind of soak in the water for some period of time. On the package, it actually talks about like letting it soak for like up to an hour if you want it to really, like, everything to get fully hydrated. But I usually just kind of let it soak for like 10 minutes or so. But doing that for each individual serving, that adds up and takes up time. Anyway, so he ate up well. And I could have fed him more, but I'm getting concerned that he might have trouble overnight if, since I'm not, ideally I don't want to open the tent up and take him out to use the bathroom. He's usually pretty good about not needing to use the bathroom overnight, but I don't want to cause him any problems by overfeeding him tonight. Okay, so I think that's enough of an update. And we're gonna get to sleep and try to get off to an early start tomorrow. So tomorrow will be Saturday, July 20th, and it'll be day 79. And we're just about like 4 or 5 miles from the actual halfway point on the trail. So that'll be a big accomplishment, big milestone. And then shortly after that, we'll be getting to the Pine Grove Furnace State Park, and hopefully we'll enjoy the half-gallon challenge. That's all for tonight. We'll say goodnight. Hope everyone who's watching is doing well, and bye for now.